I thought that would be so challenging.
I had to look up in the mirror and say to myself, do you think you can do that?
Koreans love musicals. They're those who will go to the same musical over and over again just to experience the uniqueness and thrill of each performance. We call them the revolving door fans. This is why Korea is one of the biggest markets in the world for musicals, and while even during the pandemic, theaters were never fully shuttered. Masked Koreans were able to forget their troubles and enjoy Phantom of the Opera, some over and over again. One of the most recent musicals to open in Korea is the world premiere of Beethoven Secret. Our globalist this week is its world-renowned composer, Sylvester Levay.
어떻게 그림자 읽고 어떻게 운명 거부해 간절한 내 맘 닿을 수 없다면 난 아무것도 해줄 수가 없어
Welcome, Mr. Sylvester Levay, or Sylvester, to the Globalist.
Very happy to be here, dear GA, if I may call you so.
Of course, of course. Let's start off with that great event. Congratulations on Beethoven Secret. It is the world premiere in Korea. Tell us a little bit about Beethoven Secret. What is the storyline? What is it about?
Beethoven has secluded himself from the world for different reasons. One of the reasons was came out of his childhood. You know, he wasn't treated well with from his father, and then his young friends were also not kind of nice to him, and they made always fun out of him. And then another fact came to it, that he realized in the middle of his strongest successful time in Vienna that he's losing his hearing. And he never went, public with that. He didn't want the people to know. So these things made him closed inside, And he kept also a big secret about the love of his life. When he was younger, he had girlfriends and so, so that was all fine. But then when he was in Vienna, then he felt the lack of love.
And this was when he was about 40?
Exactly. This is when he was about 39, 40. Actually, for a man, a great time to, also to get in seriously in love. And somehow at one of the concerts where he played, people were talking because they were royal people, and who is Beethoven? What do I care? And he got really angry. And there was a lady at the concert who later on defended him. People should not talk when he plays. And he noticed her. And somehow the love story started.
And that's what Beethoven Secret is about. It's a secret love life that he had.
There are many things, but this is also a big part of his secret, and including his love letter.
Oh, I see. So the secret that he was going deaf, also his love life as well. So it sort of becomes this is the title Beethoven Secret.
Yeah, and his unhappiness from his childhood that people didn't respect him.
Okay.
But the big part of it was the secret love, because he fell in love with a lady who was actually married to an older man. She had also children. But, sometimes in life, love happens at one side,
True. So we've talked about the aspect of Beethoven that the world didn't understand that was made into a musical. But when we think about Beethoven being a subject of a musical, of course we think about Beethoven's music and how that has been incorporated into a musical. You being the composer, what is it like to take Beethoven's work and make it into a musical?
The thought was to tell Beethoven's story with his music. That means that I had to make his music, which is mostly instrumental, singable. So I had to form it, and sometimes I had to add a melody line which was missing there to be able for Michael to write the lyrics to tell the story. But what we were trying to express with it, the complete insight for him. He has a feeling, a bad feeling or a sad feeling, we have to fix it with the same kind of a music that he wrote. When he composed, he had probably the same feeling. So it had to match.
But what do you mean by matching? His music is in a way very reflective of kind of the fiery character of Beethoven that we've come to expect. So it's difficult to take that and make it to someone that will sing that song and reflect such fiery feelings.
Yeah, you see, the first task for me was to select the music which I would think would be possible to make it a song out of it. So I had to study the entire work of Beethoven, which was wonderful. It was a great education. I loved Beethoven since my childhood, but I came very close to him this time. And it was also crucial for me, because I had to, and morally respect to him, I had to always watch out not to make a chewing gum music out of his music, so that his music remains in character. And then choose within the lines where I could take out a melody that can be sung. So when Michael wrote the lyrics to these songs, let's say the piano sonata number 8, Pathetic, that's da-ra-ri, da-ra-ra-ri. You see, that's so well known. Michael wrote to this song the lyrics when he wrote the letter to his beloved. So it expresses exactly what the music says and the lyrics. It fits together, and yet it keeps it. It's also orchestrated, modern and so, but it keeps it the Beethoven character. I was always taking care never to lose his character, because then I would be unfaithful to him, That was the hardest part on the decision, how I put these two musics together, a little bit of modern musical style of me and his classical style, to kind of combine it, not melt it, combine it, so that they function together.
Oh, wow. I mean, I thought that would be so challenging
Oh.
because he's such a master and he's so beloved. All of his works are so beloved. To take that and try to make it a musical number must
Well,
be.
you know, you just said the right thing, the big challenge. It was also, you have to have courage to do that. I had to look up in the mirror and say to myself, do you think you can do that? Do you have the courage to go and do it and try to do it? Because, you know, normally if you think, as you say, if you think about it, how is it possible? Once I decided, that is many years ago, that I will do it, with the time passing by, I learned more about him, I come much closer to him, and I was incorporating slowly everything together. But it was a probably the biggest challenge for me.
I don't know if I would have had that courage.
Well, that's the main issue before you start. You can say, yeah, I'll do it. No. Then you have to look inside yourself and say, really? Wake up in the night, really? Do I have the courage?
Well, bravo for having the courage. For an audience who watches and experiences Beethoven Secret, what about Beethoven would you like them to come away with understanding?
Everyone in the audience can find in Beethoven a spot, a person, or something that they can identify. Like with Beethoven, many people, I think, can identify, not because they are also losing their hearing, but they have maybe some other issues in their life that are making them very sad, and then to see in a musical how he copes with it, you know. It gives them something to take home and say, you see, not only me, also big Beethoven had his sorrow, his sadness, and so that the people somehow identify. You know, he can be, as we say, like a modern rock and roll composer star of nowadays.
Yeah. And also I think that how that story with Beethoven then translated into his work, into the music that everyone loves so much, sort of to understand his music even better, I guess.
The thing is this, to start with it, as I said, for me to decide that eventually I will do it, to have the courage to do that, Beethoven had the courage in his young years to start out to compose classical music, sonatas and so, and symphonies, concertos, and he had courage to try something else. He simply, truly revolutionized the entire music forever. When I was working, I have some spots that are playing now also in a pop music or in a jazz music. So rhythmically, he was so much ahead of his time. So he had so much in himself, and he dared to do it. I thought every day when I was working, okay, you're looking over my shoulder.
Beethoven.
I will be careful not to do some bad things that would make you angry at me, you know. We had a press conference in November here in Seoul, and I said, when we were talking about many things, I said, you know, I think Beethoven will look down on us smiling. And I hope so, certainly.
I hope so too. So let's talk about the Korean audience. Koreans really love your musicals. How do you feel about the Korean audience?
Well, I must always put up a big smile because, they make me happy. Because I have been since 12 years always, every year at least one time in Korea, where my musical have been performed. And also I watch, more than like I sense the audience when I'm there. They are a great audience because, of course, they come also to look at the stars whom they adore, but they listen to the music, but they listen also to the story. And I can also say how I always discover this, the reaction of the audience. When it gets sad or it gets very emotional, or I can feel the flow of their feelings, of their excitement. And this is what makes me so happy. Free in their emotional world. Some other countries, they are sitting like this, maybe because they have been from childhood brought up so. But, then that's stiff. Let yourself go like the Korean audience, and enjoy. I love them.
It's unique?
Absolutely unique.
Oh.
But it is also, you see, the Korean artists, Michael, my partner, and I, we are in love with Korean artists. This was also one of the reasons why we decided to do the world premiere in Korea. We had also, they produced our other musical, Rebecca. And when I was in the theater here in Korea and I saw the performances, they don't look at the show, they live it. I feel they are practically on the stage with everybody who plays it.
The
so
Korean
which means
audience.
They melt in. And that is the absolute highest level of feeling and enjoying a show. That's, in Korea, for us, the best. We said also, the Korean artists are, for us, on the top, maybe the best in the world.
Because a lot of people wouldn't quite understand why you would do a world premiere of a musical produced, created by you in Korea.
Honestly said, as I said, Michael and I made an emotional decision on the creative level because we know that this piece can be performed the best in the world here in Korea. The artists are so devoted. And when we work with them at the rehearsal, they come up with questions. They have been thinking about every little detail. And that's what makes them at the stage perform so great. And that's why we decided this is the best place for the world premiere.
But why do you think Korean artists are at that level? Is it the training? Is it maybe K-pop? Is it the Korean wave?
All of it. But basically what's the most important thing, I noticed, Korean people are live people, not only the artists. If I go on the street or I'm in a restaurant, they speak up, they laugh loud, they express their feeling, so the way they're living. And that is also the way how your vocal cords evolve. So it gets strong, and combined with this, not being afraid to show your emotion, combined with this, that gives the best grounds to be a perfect artist. Now, on the other level, we have like musicians. They are worldwide very famous. And the orchestra we have here, it's the greatest, because they don't sing, but they do it the same way, with the same Korean heart and feeling, dig into the music. That's, for us, the most beautiful thing.
And the Korean audience, you mentioned before about the uniqueness of the Korean audience, but they're also some of the youngest audience members, from what I've heard, from around the world. Many countries, especially Western countries, audiences of musicals are sort of elderly
30,
generation,
40, 50,
30, 40,
yes,
50.
Yes. And I love that. Forgive me if I only speak now about my musicals. They grow culturally with the musical. We started here 12 years ago with Mozart, then came Elisabeth, then came Rebecca, then came Marie-Antoinette. And they got every time a step higher also in the cultural, emotional world, you know. So it's not just a flat line, always the same. They move with it, you know. And this is also our task or our wish to bring the Korean young audience also closer a little bit to Beethoven's life and his music performed by their stars in a little bit modern way.
So it's a slightly more adult version of a musical that a Korean young audience would enjoy.
That is the truth, yeah.
Interesting. On the other hand, though, I mean, you've seen the Korean musical scene and you've talked about the audience and the performers. Korea also really puts a lot of emphasis on creating its own musicals, you know, having their own composers and producers. But Korea has not really been able to be successful and really make a mark in the global stage with Korean
You mean
musical.
globally, yeah.
Yes. Why do you think that is so?
I'm maybe not able to give you the total answer, but my feeling is this. For example, I saw one Korean musical which I adored. And I think it has been made also to a feature movie, Heroes.
Yes, yeah.
I saw this show in a theater a couple of years ago. I was mesmerized by it, you know. The reason why it is not popping up more on the international level is maybe because they are sticking very much to their own stories, to their own historical things, you know. I think what is important, the selection of the story. Although Heroes is for me one of the greatest musicals anyway in Korea anyways. But I think what is important for other composers and writers to have great love stories in there combined with drama.
What you said was really, really important because you talked about the story. It's not about the character, because everyone has, even Beethoven, his life had a number of stories, and you chose one of his stories to focus on. It's not that we shouldn't, I guess, you're talking about the fact that focusing on something historic, but there to find the story in there, which is what you feel is important.
Yeah. And also one other thing. It's only for myself, I can say it only for myself. They should also dare to pick up a story out of the world. It must not be a Korean story necessarily to become a successful Korean musical. You know, because at the end, the story will show and the music. And so I think they should not only say, let's look now all the books about Korean love stories and dramas and so. Let's look at the stories of the world. And then also the composer also think very much about getting under the skin of the audience wonderful melodies in important emotional situations. That is really very important. But this has to happen between the lyricist and the composer together so that it's really coming together. Bottom line is, I'm not trying to say they shouldn't do Korean stories, but they should not limit them only to that.
And then, of course, with the wonderful melody, if you can combine it with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an important point that you pointed out, that maybe we don't need to be so Korean about our subjects.
Yes, be Korean, but be also a little bit overboard, because at the end, if it succeeds, it will say the Korean musical so-and-so. So it will keep the Korean name on it.
Yes, it's a difficult combination to have, both a wonderful story and wonderful music.
Of course, that's the secret. There are so many musicals, well done, and also okay stories, but it's just it has to grow together. When I wrote the great song for Elisabeth in the show, I had to feel her, the empress. I had to go into her soul. How does she feel at this moment? And only then I started to compose. Because then you are in the mood of the scene of the song.
And so that music can sort of almost naturally come out.
Yeah.
So it was very great having you on the show.
I'm so happy to have been here with you. Also, I send my greetings to the viewers of your show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we have been talking with Mr. Sylvester Levay, who has just conducted a world premiere opening of Beethoven Secret in Korea. Next week, we'll be back with another globalist who's putting Korea on the map. Sun Jie out.